This is Brett with Indie Comics Dispatch and broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy. This is broadcast from the Dispatch.
If you got a story and you want the world to know it, if you think you ready and you ain't afraid to show it, throw your hands up high, yeah, we might stand out. We always representing cause that's what it's all about. We always representing cause that's what it's all about. And if you love some indie comics, let me hear you shout. Like, just stay tuned, what's the story? Had to get that every time a brand new indie comic from the Dispatch.
Hey, everybody out there, this is Brett with Indie Comics Dispatch coming at you again with another episode of Broadcast from the Dispatch Season 2, our second episode. And I'm really excited about tonight's episode. I'm even more excited, maybe not even more excited, but you are part of the Blaxis, Brian, which is the topic of tonight's episode. And so since you were going to be on anyway, I invited you to co-host with me as a special guest this evening. So welcome.
Thank you. I don't know if you made an error in judgment or this is going to be great. No, I think the Blaxis is a really great thing. I'm happy to be here. I always love it on the Dispatch. It'll be cool to kind of be on the other side of the table and let people kind of teach me and educate me on what they've been doing and how they've done it and all those things. So I think it's pretty dope to be here in this capacity.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you got going on. For those you're a frequent guest of the show. You've been on many times when we used to do ICD and Friends and other episodes. But tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Brian Lambert, owner, creator, et cetera, of Wingless Entertainment and Wingless Comics. I am the creator of Justice and Caliburn. I work with some great partners, obviously, in Wingless Comics. We have Nightfall, which is a crossover with Constant Hustle Comics. That'll be hitting Kickstarter on the 7th next month. Lots of great things. We've had a stellar year, obviously, backed by yourself and by the Dispatch, and we look to keep doing that in the future.
Fantastic. And full disclosure, I also create for Brian on Wingless Comics, so we are personal friends outside the show. But it's my show, so I get to do what I want. So
that includes spoiling what I was going to say later. Like, oh man, I got this new creator. I had like a whole plan. Now we're not
well, you can still
plan.
do it. We'll act like it didn't happen.
Okay. I'm gonna pretend I'm drunk, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, I'm going to jump to introducing our guests. Let me just say first, though, if you're out there watching this, sharing is caring. We get more viewers, more reach when you share, either to your profile, to groups. If you have a page you can share to, that all helps us reach more people. And tonight we are talking with a new group called the Blaxis. I think it's Quentin commenting, showing up as Indie Comics Dispatch. What is Brian drinking? What are you drinking tonight, Brian? I got water.
I actually have some sipping whiskey. I got a little bit of Gentleman Jack that I plan on. Nice and smooth. It's a real woody taste. I love it. And only thing that's missing is a cigar, honestly.
Well, there's still time left in the evening, so you never know what'll happen. First up, creator, instigator, perhaps, of the Blaxis. Another guest who's been on the show a couple times now, Jiba Molei Anderson. Jiba is the CEO and creative director of Griot Enterprises, a publishing company, visual communication studio. He is the creator of The Horseman and curator of 4 pages, 16 bars of visual mixtape anthology series. Anderson has worked as a writer, graphic designer, and art director for companies such as Onyx Path Publishing, the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art, and Rogue Matter. Jiba, welcome back.
Hello, great to be back. By the way, I do have to say your intro, straight fire. Like that intro is so 100% and so based on we were talking about before the show started that may continue on in this interview today. But always a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you, Brett, for basically putting together the first official meeting of the Blaxis. So thanks for that.
No problem. Like I said before the show, I'm glad I could bring you guys together. Just call me Nick Fury.
Can I say real quick? I want to shout out David Geringer, who did the music for that opening, because he's a really great dude. He does some great openings. He's worked on Is Nana, obviously ICD, and he's done a couple others. Man, he's a great up and coming producer, and he's working on some motion comics and stuff. Like, the dude is just amazing, man. He's right up there with other creators we all esteem.
It really is. I sent him the video after we got the video done. And I said, David, the dispatch, and this is the opening visual part. Make it sing, man. And he just took it, and he did an amazing job. Job.
Definitely.
I'm going to get him before there's a fire and he gets called away. Our next guest, Tony Kittrell. Tony is the creator and lead writer for Advent Comics. Some of his titles include Cosmos, Titan the Ultraman, Southside, and The Regulators. As Advent Comics celebrates its 12-year anniversary, Tony is now more than ever determined to bring new readers into his Advent universe. Tony, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for having me here. Hi, fellas. How y'all doing tonight?
What up? What up?
What's going on, Captain?
Hanging in there.
And then before they lose connection again, because that happened before the show, I'm going to also welcome Dorphise Jean. Dorphise is a comic creator and screenplay writer who began their career in 2015. Spirit's Destiny was their first published comic book. Their most recent accomplishments include creator and writer of Spirit's Destiny, Fauna, Y2K, and now Naya Kaler. Did I say that right? I feel like I never say that right.
Yeah, you said it correctly.
Oh, God. Thank you, Jesus. They are currently a freelance writer for the comic book community. They also continue to pursue diverse projects, including creating content from film scripts to video game scripts. Welcome, Dorphise.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So this is, like Jiba said, the first official meeting of the Blaxis. So, Jiba, first and foremost, explain the Blaxis. What is it?
Okay, so you remember, like any of us who are hip hop heads, you remember how back in the day you would have groups of MCs come together and form cliques, from the Mighty Juice Crew, to the Native Tongues, which is my personal favorite clique, to the Hieroglyphics, to, the Dungeon Family, to straight up the Wu-Tang Clan, right? These were groups of like-minded MCs and artists who just came together and they just, supported each other, right? They might have been linked together by producers like the Hit Squad, you know what I mean? They might just be, brought together just because of a common ideology like the Soulquarians, so on and so forth. And in all honesty, I've been building this concept of the Blaxis for, the past 5 years, right? As a matter of fact, if you look at 4 pages, 16 bars of visual mixtape, the anthology series, you notice it has the imprint of Blaxis Publishing. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of, if you think about it, like 4 pages, 16 bars was kind of like the audition. The Blaxis is the next step in that involvement of me just, connecting with like-minded creators, right? And it's a connection not out of business or anything. It's like how those cliques, how those, hip hop crews got together. It's out of like a commonality, a commonality of professionalism, a commonality of quality of content, a commonality of like outlooks on this business, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, most importantly, I like all y'all. You know what I mean? It's like we kicked it, you know what I mean? We mixed it up, whether it be on the interwebs or in person, like, when Tony and I's characters were going toe to toe. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was real good. I'm still mad at your little victory thing, like you actually made.
So maybe we can do a match one day, bro.
Before that, I was like, wow, okay, I see how it is for next time.
Every good show has a sequel.
Right.
Has a sequel.
Most definitely. But ultimately, that's what the Blaxis is all about. It's all about, like-minded creators coming together and supporting each other and big upping each other like we have been doing on the internet and that sort of thing. Is just the official moniker of it, and we got a logo. You know what I'm saying? That logo goes on t-shirts and posters and stuff like that. And and it could go on our books. It's like the next level of the Comics Code Authority sticker. Having a Blaxis logo on your book means that this is it right here. You know what I mean? Like this is worth your money, your time, and you're going to want more of it once you get done with one issue. And also, what's very important about the Blaxis is that unlike other people, they talk about collabs and blah, 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 and stuff like this. We need a new company. We need this. We need that. We need this. They want to say we're not a monolith, but we want this monolithic thing in order to, you know what I mean? That the person who's saying that, like, that I want a head. I want to be, the head of whatever of this monolith. It's all BS because honestly, it's like, Brian doesn't need me. Tony doesn't need me. Dorphise doesn't need me. In order to, have their careers move forward and vice versa. And that's the lovely part about that. It's like we all operate in different spaces and in different arenas. And again, we support each other and we love the work that we do. And also we're creating opportunities where, we will collab, we will link up. Like, for instance, Tony had his Southside Kickstarter launched. He reached out to Brian, or Brian reached out to him, and it's like, yo, I have a Kickstarter coming up soon. We need to do something together. Brian reached out to me. He was like, yo, you know what I mean? And that linkage, I was like, this is a good time to launch the Blaxis. You know what I mean? And just make this official, right? So that, again, it's showing that official connection, right, amongst us. Okay. Now, keep in mind, there are other crews out there, like the 133 art crew, various other people that are doing things together, Jason Wise and Black Heroes Matter and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's like, there's no competition. I mean, that's just like, again, it's like, oh, word up, there's the hieroglyphics. Oh, damn, those are the Soulquarians. Damn, that's dope. I hope they do a track together. You know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe. And it's a vibe that has been growing in especially the Black comics community, but I think it's very needed at this point because of the fact that a lot of us are doing great things and a lot of us are blowing up, and there is no time for division and competition and petty pissing contests. We're all out here to win.
Amen.
So I wanted to dovetail on that and ask Tony, because Tony obviously he has Cosmos, that is a maxi series. He's brought in a lot of creators that aren't necessarily only from like the Black indie comic community, but just the comic community in general. And I definitely wanted to I know what my take is, right? I know what my feeling is. But I want to get Tony's take on the difference between what we kind of road mapping and feeling out with the Blaxis and a normal kind of crossover, link up of multiple companies.
Honestly, there is no difference because what we're doing here is the same thing that I'm doing in Cosmos. But with this coalition, this group right here, I can expand and be a little bit more, how can I say, what's the word? More free in the movements. Whereas I'm dealing with other companies and they're like, oh, well, you can't do this with our characters, or you can't do this, you can't do that. We're all blowing up. So me showing shine to your character or any of the characters in the group it's a plus. I mean, those other companies, like you said, they don't need each other. We don't need to be we don't need to roll together. But what we're doing here, I think we can take it to another level if we show the unity, because that's like Jiba said, that's what's needed right now is unity. And if people see us moving together as one, no static, no friction, and we doing good things, others will do that and follow. And that's what we need, because we need that coalition, that base, that solid foundation to move and build from. So I'm hoping that's what we can do here and take it and run with it and go a little further, because like I said, Cosmos, it's all well and good, but this right here, this has a nucleus of being something dynamite, something real dynamite. So I was happy to jump on board with this one. So that's just my take on it.
I do want to jump in real quick. I have dropped both Jiba's and Tony's Kickstarter links in the comments on all the pages except for Instagram. Sorry, Instagram. They don't allow clickable links, so it wouldn't do you any good anyway. But go to their profile. I'm sure you can find the link. Second thing is, if you're listening to this after the fact on podcasting, you hear beeping and kind of walkie-talkie noises. That's because Tony is literally sitting in a fire station right now. He's on duty and has taken the time to join us as long as there's no fires, no emergencies.
Hopefully,
so,
knock on wood. Hopefully, there is not.
So let's let Dorphise start with this one. Each of you are an indie comic creator in your own right. So I guess my question is, why indie? What's the appeal of being indie?
Well, once upon a time, I was signed with a publisher. There was a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of restrictions. I was told I couldn't say.
Hey, does that publisher have a name? I was wondering.
Not anymore.
Their name, Short Fuse. I was not allowed to say certain things on social media. Like, they were actually running my fan pages. I wasn't able to be myself, really. It was like I was a robot. And especially when I go to cons and stuff, it was always all about them. It was not about the creator. So I was like, okay, when we separated, even though it was very turmoil, I was happy because I was free. I was able to do things my way. I felt whole again. Like, when I was with them, I did not really feel whole because it was always back and forth, and I was not a yes man at all. I was like the rebel within everybody. Everybody was the hush. It was all quiet. Me, I was very outspoken. Now that I'm free, I can just be myself. I could work with anybody. I was restricted from working with certain artists and editors. It was restricted budget. I mean, I don't mind going outside my budget. I've worked with Brian before. Brian cursed me out, and I'm fine with that. I work with Greg. I need people that can be themselves, because I want people to be on me and, tell me about myself. I have no problem with that. It's all love. So that's the best thing about being indie. You can do whatever you want, and it's no restrictions. The big two, they control what you write. The only thing about me, I got to do with my editors, I got to make sure my story makes sense. So, that's pretty much it.
Jiba, let's jump over to you. Why indie?
Why indie? I chose indie because I did not want to hear anybody say no. In terms of this industry period, right? Like, the whole notion of trying to work for DC or Marvel, that's not wrong. By no means am I saying that working for a member of the corporate too is a wrong move. You know what I mean? I have a lot of friends and colleagues who have done work for DC or Marvel. But when I got into the industry, I knew right away that trying to work for DC or Marvel is kind of it's a lottery, right? Because there are only so many spots that are available. I knew that in 1994 when I made my first official foray into the industry. I always knew that ultimately, getting into this comic book industry, I wanted to make my own comic book. I wanted to make my own characters. I wanted to create my own world. It was never my desire to be a Batman artist or an X-Men artist. I mean, that would have been nice, but that wasn't my end goal. My end goal was to be someone that was known for creating their own projects. I mean, I came into the business during the era of, the first wave of Image and the birth of Milestone and Tribe and Brother Man. You know what I mean? So it already showed that I didn't need DC or Marvel to have a career in comics. And at this point in the game, 20 years deep of being indie, I mean, there are things that I've done in the indie space that DC and Marvel comic book artists or writers have not done. You know what I mean? Like I got one of my books in the freaking Smithsonian, and that's The Horseman. That's not because Jiba worked on Batman, you know what I mean? And then somebody saw The Horseman. No, that was like The Horseman from Jump. So at this point, at this stage of the game, it's like, yeah, I always say this: I will not turn down a DC or Marvel check, but I do know at the end of the day that it is just a check. Right? Indie comics is the career and where I have the most control and actually where I have made my mark. So
fantastic.
You don't get
Tony?
enough flowers, Jiba. I'm gonna tell you that right now, bro.
Thanks, man.
Smithsonian, that's huge. Other than yourself, John Jennings, and a few others, ain't nobody doing it like y'all. I'm giving you flowers right here publicly.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, bro. You're welcome.
Tony, why indie?
Sort of piggybacking off what Jiba said, he came in while the Renaissance was beginning. I came in when Milestone was ending, and the reason I came in was because Milestone was ending. I wanted to produce books that fit that mold, and I didn't see that coming out of DC and Marvel at the time. It was dark and gritty, but there was no dark per se, we'll put it that way. So I wanted to give a space for what I thought was needed to be seen, and characters of color, powerful creators of color, and characters of color to have a shine, a spotlight. So that's what I started with, and indie was that way to get it done. And so, like I say, 12 years later, we're still doing it. And just to piggyback off our 10th anniversary book, we had one of the creators of Milestone, Mr. Michael Davis, who gave us a forward. And in that forward, he said, Milestone was around for 3 years. Advent's been around for 12. Ain't no competition. Ain't no comparison. And those were his words. So we're going to leave it at that.
That's amazing. Hey, Tony, while you're here, Maxwell Bristol on Instagram, Bristol Media Group, wants to know what's your personal favorite title of your own from your own catalog.
Ooh. Well, I'm Titan, because Titan is who basically I'm basing the character on myself. So Titan is my favorite. But right now, Cosmos and sometimes Southside is the ones that are doing well. So those two are doing really well for us. Then we got other titles, but those are probably my favorite right at the moment.
Nice. Brian, why indie?
If I'm being honest, it's because Star Wars, Robotech, and Batman they don't take resumes. Like I really, that was my original. Like, oh man, I want to write for Robotech, and that doesn't exist, right? Like, oh, I want to write for Star Wars, it doesn't exist. So I mean, I think that everyone, or mostly everyone, right, aspires to be with one of the big companies or these big properties, or at least writing for these big properties that you grew up wanting to be a part of. For me, I ended up meeting a couple creators on this path coming out of novel writing, and one guy had put up, "Hey man, I want to start a comic," and it was when I first, got into this, started thinking about it. And he's like, "Oh, I want to make a comic." I had never done one before, but me and him linked up. We started chatting it up, and that led to Concrete Comics, that led to meeting Jiba, that led to meeting Tony, that led to, led to editing. So Dorphise had put a post one time and was talking about the editing of her book. Literally no one knew me at that point, but I hit her up and was like, "Yo, I can edit. And then I was like, give me a few pages, like give me 2 or 3 pages, and I'll show you the quality of my work. You know what I mean? And then you can decide if you want to go with it. And it ended up being a good thing, I think, for both of us. Learning experience for me, learning experience for her. We got some editing done. We got to chopping it up. She is right. I did cuss her out a couple times. She's getting on my nerves. But it's like my little sister. You know what I mean? Like that's just gonna happen. So indie affords us all a space that we can uniquely control, I believe. And I think that with the creators you have here, it's shown that. And don't get me wrong, I'm like Jiba. If that DC check comes in, right, and they want to underwrite, the Blaxis, again, I don't know that I would take the Milestone deal because they own a lot of that IP. But like, if they want to underwrite, if Substack wants to throw 600,000 at us, I'm gonna be like, somebody from the Black, I'm going if y'all ain't, you know what I mean? So, but I think again, it affords us the ability to create in a way that's true for us. There's a thing that happens in movies and in scripts sometimes, like a character will be they're talking, and then they'll do something like they'll say something like "step off," right? And then at that moment, if you didn't know before, somebody that's not from the culture wrote that line because we don't say that. But in this space, we get to go ahead and be ourselves and do ourselves. And I think that's not necessarily the only draw, but that's one of the biggest pieces of being able to create like we create, doing what we do our way without having our culture, not even just our color, but our culture policed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's deep.
Or even dissect it and dissect it incorrectly. As Brian mentioned, that whole thing with like step off, that's up there with like, Sweet Christmas.
Right.
That sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, also here's the thing, like if we really want to keep it 110% about comics, all right, indie, corporate too, it doesn't matter, right? It's comics, okay? Like really the only difference that there is between the corporate, well, there are two differences. Number one, money, you know what I mean? Number two, close to 100 years of market saturation, right?
The machine.
Yep. But when it comes to actually working in comics, right, it's all the same. It's like if somebody's working, like for instance, I'll talk about like Brandon Thomas, right? Brandon Thomas, it was interesting. Brandon was one of the first cats that reviewed The Horseman way back in the day. That's how far back we go, right? So I've seen Brandon's career from reviewing my stuff, right, to writing his own stuff, for getting hired, writing for Rob Liefeld. I asked him what that was like. That's an interesting story. But for him going on to creating Miranda Mercury, and then later on, writing Horizon for Image, getting up to excellence, to the point where right now he's writing Aquaman, you know what I mean? Same thing with the other Brandon Easton, coming from the indies to the corporate. David Walker is another one, Sanford Green goes back and forth, right? Like San made his bones, doing DC and Marvel books. On the flip side, he also did the Method Man graphic novel, and he's arguably finding his biggest success right now on his creator-owned gig. You know what I'm saying? So there's a back and forth, right? Neither you're working in comics, period. You know what I mean? The only difference, indie versus corporate, is how much marketing you have to do and how much advertising you have to do to get your brand out there, right? Like you don't have an infrastructure of like a Warner Brothers or a Disney, to handle the marketing and advertising, which is also could be not advantageous, as we learned from Dorphise, because you're looking at DC or Marvel, who do you really like they definitely going to control, you know what I mean, what is said and so on and so forth. So it's like ultimately we're all in the comic book industry. We're here. We just decided to break ourselves in as independents, as opposed to wait for somebody to discover our work.
I love it. So let's talk partnerships in indie comics for a minute, because that's why we're here, right? Celebrating and recognizing the Blaxis as a new group. They seem to be oftentimes hard, though. You've talked a little bit about how the Blaxis is different, but why is it so difficult sometimes for creatives to get along?
3 simple words: artist, ego, bullshit.
Yep.
3 words right there. That is the ultimate difficulty of collaborations. Even the early days of Rio Enterprises, like, we fell prey to that. We fell prey to, artist ego bullshit. Thank goodness. Even though the original crew isn't together as Rio Enterprises, we're still together as part of the Blaxis. You know what I mean? You see how that evolves, right? Because all of us in that group had to get out of our bullshit, had to get out of our heads. The thing about artist ego bullshit, it's arrogance masking insecurity. That's exactly what it is, right? Because in this business, we are being judged on giving a little bit of our soul. All right, as a creative, you are giving a little bit of your soul. You are exposing your soul, and you are saying, exposing the soul, give me money for exposing my soul. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, as an artist, as the scariest thing, you got to act like, I'm the shit, right? But at the same time, you're like, do people really like my stuff? Like, for instance, this is how it works. So, I got done like with the 2 4-pages Kickstarters, very successful, right? And I'm working on Manifest Destiny, and I actually talked to a friend of mine. I'm helping her with a graphic novel. And, one of the things she was talking about, she was like, oh my God, this is 100 pages. Oh my God, how do you do this? Like, I didn't even know, like I didn't know the amount of work that went into it. God, how do you do this day in, day out? I'm like, that's just how it is. But also, as an artist, comics aren't her thing. She does other things, and she's a professor. And I'm a professor too. But at a certain point, I'm like talking about this stuff, and people are liking my work and things of that nature. And I'm sorry for being long-winded, but I will have this make sense. But when I was a kid coming in to the game, one of the things that I wanted to be known for, I wanted to be known as a great artist. I wanted to be in the echelon of like John Byrne, George Perez. Like, I wanted cats to know me like that. Deep in this game, you know what I mean? In my career, right? When people talk about their favorite artists, I don't come up in conversation. And it's not because like it's not good. It's because I do so many other things, so I know that people recognize me as a creator now. You know what I mean? They recognize me as the dude that just makes shit up and like makes it happen. Cool. But that 19, 25-year-old in me is still like, but do y'all even like really like my work? Like, do y'all really like me? Like, I'm not sure. Like, are y'all just blowing smoke up my ass? You know what I mean? Like, and that's part of the artist ego bullshit. So with that, you got people who want to come together and they say they want to collaborate, but at the same time, they all want to be known as the man or as the woman. More so, let me keep it real, as the man, because it's really mostly dudes that get into this bullshit, right? 95% dudes. I'm going to keep it real. right? That's where the artist ego bullshit comes into play, right? So they all want to be Big Willie, you know what I mean? But the thing about it is that the infrastructure for their idea is not in place. They haven't written a business plan. They haven't laid out clear ideas of who's going to manage this collective or this company, right? Because not everybody can be the artist, not everybody can be the writer. Somebody has to be the businessman. Somebody has to, take the role of marketing. Somebody has to take the role of advertising. Somebody has to watch the money. You know what I mean? This is a business, right? And so the artist ego bullshit coupled with the lack of understanding how a business works, that's why you see 99% of these collaborations fail.
Yep.
I saw a lot of head nodding going around. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Oh, I'm
gonna jump in real quick.
Said. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry about that, Tone. So I'm gonna abstain from the larger part of this conversation, being that I've had a tumultuous couple of weeks with a few different creators and a few different things. But one of the things that Jiba said, not in this conversation, but 2 questions ago, is probably one of the larger parts of what's going on here, is the Blaxis is not contingent on the business aspects of the relationship, right? The Blaxis is dependent on, like, I like Jiba and I want to promote his stuff, right? And I want to see him shine. I like Tony. I like Dorphise, you know what I mean? Like all those different elements. This is not a traditional link up in terms of like a crossover. We're not here just because we're going to release a comic book next year. Blaxis is different in that we are literally people who own companies, who are promoting each other, who are supporting each other, who are, if the case is needed, checking each other. Hey man, your quality on this was kind of, hey, don't skip a set, don't do this, don't do that. It's not contingent, like you said, on that artist ego bullshit. We've all had our our bouts with it. We've all had our spats with it, right? But the Blaxis is not contingent on any of that. Their books are going to get made regardless. My books are going to get made regardless. But what we can do is show that there is a quality to be had, a quality to be seen, and a movement. Like we always talk about this movement, right? But in order to have a movement, you got to have some solidarity.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the Blaxis, and there are like Jiba said, there are others. You know what I mean? Like you got 133, you got crews that you can see roll together, whether or not they're official or not. You know what I mean? Like I Am Black Sci-Fi, and on and on and on, and Sorghum and Spear, and Dedrin and those guys. You know what I mean? Like there are a bunch of different Blurtish, and we all know each other, right? And I think that even if they have their 5 and we have our 5, and then we have our 5 and we have our 5, what you have happen is these larger groups recognize, okay, that's a tribe called Quest. Okay, cool. Well, what Booyah tribe? You know what I mean? Like you have all of that where they can link up in a very unofficial but forward moving state. It's not dependent. A lot of times when you get things dependent on what the next book is, Dorphise and I have to get together and now we're partners because all we're doing is a book together. Yeah, you do get that artist ego bullshit, right? Because like you said, somebody's got to be the big dog. And again, that's another part of it. If you don't know business, right? And if I don't know business and Jiba makes a business move, I get personally offended by that. And that's a problem, as opposed to being like, oh, that was a business move, and we had to do this in order to keep the business going. And a lot of that leads to misunderstanding, which leads to hurt feelings, which leads to on and on and on. The Blaxis, again, is not contingent on any of that. If tomorrow we don't do a collab poster, none of us are going to be mad. We're going to be like, okay, we get it on the next one. If I miss a post of Jiba's, oh, hey, you didn't reshare my post. That's not a big deal. We post all the time. We're going to get it on the next one. It's not a business relationship that's contingent on dollars and cents and on certain things that need to get done. This is a business relationship and a friendship and a collaborative effort, not collaboration, but collaborative effort of moving the entire movement forward. Like you said, like Wu-Tang took over New York, right? And like Staten Island was Shaolin because they had a movement. ODB style is completely different than that, right? But they could link up and say, hey, we're still moving this Wu-Tang thing forward, which is the same for Jizza, RZA, like all of them, Ghostface, you know what I mean? Like all of it. We all have different personalities. Also, they didn't want to try and have nicknames or I'm gonna call them call signs, but just so y'all know, I'm Ghost, from the Blaxis. I'm putting that on Ashley because they were trying
Like
to
I
hate
said,
on
like I
my
said,
nickname. You know what
I got-
so,
I got so many aliases. You know what I mean? Y'all just don't know. You can call me Mr. Jibs. That's what you call me, Mr. Jibs. That's a good mastermind kind of feel to it, Mr.
It
Jibs.
does. You're right.
Right.
Tony, you were going to add something a moment ago.
I was just going to say that both of what they said was 100% spot on. My very first Kickstarter that I did was a collaborative effort between 4 of the guys. And that ego bullshit came into play, and that's why we couldn't finish the project. And that, to me, is one of the biggest things I regret. It's not so much as what happened, because it was bound to happen, because certain people were like, oh, I want to be the man, I want to be the man. But the fact that we couldn't come together, show solidarity as Black men to get a project moving. Everything, everybody's, oh, it's not going to work. Black guys can't work together. And it fell prey to that, and I was so hurt by that. To this day, it still bothers me that we didn't finish that book. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a learning lesson. You move forward, you grow from it. But, I definitely want to make sure that things like that don't happen again, and that we move everybody forward. Everybody wins, everybody shines. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Dorphise, got anything to add?
Well, they said everything. It's all about ego. I agree everything that he said. That's why I work by myself.
and leave it to the lady in the group to be spot on.
Right.
Spot on.
I'll make my own
she's
mistake.
she's like, I work by myself, but Brian edited and Greg edited, and I work with a team.
Yeah, oh yeah, they both
You don't
cursed
work
me
by
out.
yourself. You don't knock it off.
Yeah, Greg always cursing me out, so I'm so used to it now. He's like, Dorphise, what are you doing?
On Instagram, we have solidarity and unity increases our amount of content, and we can police each other's quality, which will leverage us to gain market share and allow us to sign big distribution deals. Because content is the true currency in this digital realm.
Yep.
Yes, it is. True words have never been spoken.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, you know, that was evidenced by Roy Okupe, you know, getting that deal with
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of the beautiful things about 4 pages, 16 bars of visual mixtape, is that you know, I approached Roy to be a part of that, like right when EXO jumped on. You know what I mean? Like, that was the thing with 4 pages, 16 bars. It was all about the reach out and to bring as many different voices together in a package. You know what I mean? That was like, this is what Black comics is. This is what diverse comics is all about. And seeing and having the people who have contributed to the various volumes, you know what I mean, blow up in many different ways. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing, you know. And also showing like some of the new blood that's coming into the mix and stuff like that. I mean, it's we were talking earlier about this extremely disrespectful thread that we viewed.
Some of you viewed, some of you partook in.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah. I was highly offended and irked of the level of disrespect that was shown by an audience who claims to clamor for the work that we produce. And that level of disrespect showed me 100% that there are some of us who they say they want representation, but they don't. And what I also realized at that point, 100%, is like, that is not my audience.
Yep.
They can stay wandering in the darkness. They can stay on that bullshit, right? they can stay. They actively blind their eyes to seeing how far Black and brown creators have come. You know what I mean? With product, with quality product, high quality product, like blow my mind, like good Lord, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. This was the kind of stuff I wanted to see when I got into the industry, and like when I saw the Black Age and slowly become the Black comics movement, right? I wanted to see the level of quality that challenged and surpassed DC and Marvel and stuff like that. We are in that time right now. And there is a contingent of, and I'm going to keep it real, there are a contingent of Black male, quote unquote, comic book fans who refuse. They absolutely refuse to see or engage or embrace the diversity that's happened. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It's like, I talked to one friend, it's like, oh, you know, what they ultimately want is just Black versions of like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. They got that. Not satisfied, right? Then they want to talk about, you know, some of the, you know, Black characters and major Black characters getting on television and film and stuff like that. We had Black Lightning, we had Luke Cage, we got Black Panther, you know, we got Monica Rambeau, you know what I'm saying? We got Kang, we got Steel now as Superman and Lois, we got Batwoman, we got Batwing, we got all these Black characters on TV and movies. They still not satisfied. Then they want to say like, well, we want to support, you know, more original, you know, Black characters and stuff like that. They out there. Still not satisfied. But what's interesting is that they're complaining, and ultimately I realize like their numbers in terms of consumers don't matter, because none of us here are depending on their sales for us to be successful. We have all found our audiences in different areas. Our audiences are Black audiences, they're white readers, they're Asian readers, they're LGBTQ, they're Latinx. You know what I mean? Like there is a big enough audience that has been proven through all of us and all of our successes and our Kickstarters, so on and so forth, that want the content that we're producing. So with this, I'm officially saying in this podcast, fuck y'all who are not the diversity.
I'll drink to that.
Like,
Have a sip for me.
and I said that with my whole chest. And y'all can be mad at me. And y'all can try and come with me with all the weapons, because I'm choosing that violence right now.
There you go.
He chose violence, but was in C2E2 as well. That's when I knew.
We are approaching towards the end of the show. We are about 3/4 of the way through the show. I do want to pop up the Patreon link at the bottom of the screen there. If you want to support the Dispatch on an ongoing basis, you can support us at patreon.com/IndieComicsDispatch for as little as $3 a month, and our highest tier is only $10 a month. So you can sign on and do that. But Jiba, I believe you were saying fuck you. No.
Sorry, man. It's peak Leo season right now, so it's like my claws are out. You know what I'm saying? My dome,
Chicago too.
Yeah, my main Chicago and Detroit and Liberia. So you got all of that happening right now. You know what I'm saying? You got Midwest Africanisms happening right now. So yeah,
I love it. I'm in a chat constantly with Brian, and so yeah. We'll just leave that there.
We know. You're right.
Speaking of fan base, though, so let's talk about fan base for a minute. You have each run Kickstarters. Two of you are currently running a Kickstarter. Those links are in the comment sections. One of you has a Kickstarter coming up on September 7th. That link is also in the comment section. Is there a way, is Kickstarters sustainable for creators? Is there a way to break the crowdfunding cycle?
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
but
I've done.
Dorphise, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Dorphise. I'm
Well,
sorry.
yeah, I've done it. I've paid off uh my own comic, but Kickstarter is a great way to market your comic book. It's the best way to create your fan base, because most of the people that found out about my Kickstarter was through Kickstarter. You know, necessarily I can pay it off, but it's a great way when somebody's actually helping you build your comic book from the ground up, or actually assist you, because they are taking pride in assisting you within your project. Because I get texts, emails all day, and I'm very open with communication with my backers, and especially Brian as but I make sure
Only got my
I
damn
mean, sure I
books.
keep that communication open. It's one of the reasons why I like Kickstarter, and I'm still learning about other platforms, especially when we're shipping out books from other creators. So I don't know. I can maneuver from the platform, but I think it's a great way for us to build our platform, because I released my issue 3. I was a lot of people wanted me to fail creating YouTube videos, but it's all good. They actually helped me. The hate is
It's
real,
beers
but
from me anyway. Don't worry about it.
It is.
The true hate comes when you're doing something right.
yes.
If you're doing something right, that is truly when the haters pop out.
I love it.
Yeah,
There's a little saying that motivates me. Nobody watches you more than the people who hate you. So
that's very true.
it is. Let them watch and keep shining. Keep doing what you're doing. As long as you're doing right by your backers and your fans, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kickstarter is a good way to put things at your fingertips, right? Because we all know that we work against the algorithm, and that's the algorithm in anything, right? Even Kickstarter itself. But the algorithm from Facebook has changed. A year ago when I was launching my first campaign, right, groups were where it's at. You could post in groups and hundreds of people would see it per day. If you look at group engagement now, you might get one person to see something, maybe 10 if you're lucky. Instagram is a little bit better. TikTok is obviously on the rise, but that's hard as well unless you're funny and doing some pratfalls. There are some people who got real good success on there, are others who don't. Twitter, all of it battling an algorithm. The thing with Kickstarter is you have people that are on there that want to spend money. They want to invest in a company. They want to invest in you, right? In the millions. And they're just going to stumble across your project. So Kickstarter is a good place for independent comics and artists to start, right? And even to continue. Look at Berserk. Berserk came out, right? And that's Reeves. I guess he's an independent artist. He's no independent artist, but he got a large group of people that got to see it in one place. McFarlane made $1 million with his statues because all his fans got to go to one place. It's a very nice hub where you don't have to do it yourself. Could McFarlane have sold a million sets of his action figure on his own website? Yeah, but why waste the time creating the infrastructure to do that? The infrastructure is there for you. It's a smart place. It's like when like Jiba was saying, a lot of times we want to, as creators, we want to be the next image, or we want to do this, we want to do that, right? But then everybody wants to create their own thing. Oh, well, I want to, hey, why don't 5 of us get together and buy a printing press? Why don't you go to somebody who already prints, bro? Like, that's dumb. Like, it's already there. Stop. Like, just because you made a new car doesn't mean you need to invent a new wheel. Like, the wheels are there. Just put them on your thing and go. So with Kickstarter, again, it puts people at your fingertips. When I advertise through my email list, right, for Jiba, and in updates to my 200-300 backers, 500, however many backers from however many campaigns, right, that's potentially hundreds of people that have never seen Jiba stuff before. When he does the same thing for me, it's the same thing vice versa. Tony, Dorphise, all of that, right? But these are all people that have proven that they want to invest in these products. Unlike what we were talking about with these guys who had what they had to say about Milestone and Black Comics and success and blah, 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 blah. This is a $1.2 billion market where Marvel and DC control 95% of that market.
They don't even control 95% of that market. They really don't.
Anymore. Yeah,
no.
Well, yeah, you're right. Fair,
Scholastic controls the majority of it.
Yeah,
like these cats,
fair.
DC and Marvel at the end all be all. DC and Marvel are like 20-30% of that graphic novel share.
Fair,
So-
that's very fair, right?
Yeah,
So when we have that, right, even if the Blaxis takes 1% of a $1.2 billion enterprise, right, by building a platform through our successful Kickstarters, through linking up, what are the numbers on that, guys? You know what I mean? Like, think about it. But that's one of the things that people, when they want to look down and do this elitist kind of bullshit, or, oh, I only sold 25 copies, but my comic is better because I'm no, stop it. This is a good, viable platform for people to work on, right? And for them to do their thing. And if somebody sells more than you, fucking reach out to them. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's doing better, if you got that relationship, do it. Stop with this elitist, well, I don't do Kickstarter. Yeah, that's why you don't sell 2 comics on your website. Nobody else.
right.
Like,
And
you
that,
probably sell more.
yeah, the whole thing about elitist, elitist bullshit. It's like, who are you? Like very similar. Like who is you? Like,
Right.
in terms of like having like, and then on top of that, these people who do act elitist, I look at their product and I'm like, yeah, it's not because you're elitist. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
let's keep it real. But in terms of Kickstarter, I mean, I look at Kickstarter this way. In a couple of ways. Number one, when I look at comic book sales, or I look at book sales, the way I look at it, I think of them as like record releases. Like, you want to get like that first week push. You know what I mean? Because afterwards, like, the books are going to trickle. You're going to sell the books, right? If that first week push is successful. Okay. So I look at Kickstarter. For me, that's the first week push. And it took me a while to get back to Kickstarter like that, because I did my first Kickstarter campaign like good 10 years ago. It wasn't successful and I was gun shy about it. But what I had to do is I had to really step back and really peep out, the people who were successful with their Kickstarters and why were they successful, right? Mm-hmm. And then when I found out, it was like, oh, it's about the marketing and the advertising and building up your name, which I used to work in marketing and advertising. I'm like, okay, bet. So this is what needs to happen, right? So it's like, okay. And the thing about marketing and advertising, you have to know how to market and advertise. It's not just enough to like say, yo, my book is coming out every 3 days, or like, buy this book. It's got 40 pages of action, or buy this book. It's a sci-fi book. Buy this book. It's a black sci-fi anthology. I mean, there's more to that. Like, you have to tell the story. You have to entice people to get in there. Most importantly, because we're indie, the big selling point is us.
Yep.
So basically, if you ain't a decent person in this game, like, if you don't play the game fair, if you try and create aliases to like kind of promote your work because like people don't like you know what I'm saying? I mean,
you always do cheesecake books and those will sell, and then you'll tell people that your failures are better than their successes, in your high-pitched voice.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm flexing here. This is, they try to say that, and I say, yeah, but I'm in the Smithsonian. How about you? Anyway, that is a dope big joker. That is a dope big joker, by the way. I don't pull it out that often. You really have to piss me off for me to break out my resume. You know what I mean? You really have to piss me off to do that. But with all of that being said, like, Kickstarter is great to it's a great marketing tool. It's a great way to build your fan base and to create a database for your fan base, right? Mm-hmm. It's also a great marketplace if you know how to do it correctly, right? Yeah. It's really good. Now, but I mean, it's a lot of work.
Facts.
It's a lot of work, but if you do the work right, it's definitely worth it.
And Dan Schmidt just chimed in. He says, after the Kickstarter is over, how do you keep sales momentum going?
I would say periodic advertising. Just like a film. Just like, when the movie comes out, Like the next week or 2 weeks later, watch the #1 movie still in theaters or on streaming.
Yeah.
If you haven't
Yeah.
seen it the first or 31st time, see it now again. You know what I mean? So you just have to like, you know, put that out every so often. The thing about it is, unless it's a really big thing, you know, and hopefully your books become a big thing, like a perennial bestseller. Like, say, for instance, you know, Watchmen is a perennial bestseller, right? Harry Potter, perennial bestseller, right? That sort of thing. With your book sales, what I found 20 plus years in the game is that, you know, that first week sales, which the Kickstarter is very helpful for, that's great because the sales that are going to keep happening, they're going to trickle in. You know what I mean? It's going to trickle if you've done it right. And again, this is not a periodical model per se. This is more of like a trade paperback or a graphic novel model. But if the content is there, you got enough content, those sales will keep coming in. You know, they'll trickle in, that sort of thing, right? But every so often, you got to remind people that stuff is out there.
Also, a lot of begging and tears. You're gonna do a lot of crying, but like beg people to buy your book. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Please
you know what I mean? You
buy.
just gotta do it.
Coming hand in hand right now.
All right, going into last question here as we wrap up the evening. We'll start with Dorphise on this one. What is one piece of advice you've learned the hard way in the indie comic industry?
Wow. What
We
a
just gonna put the whole floor in Dorphise. So break it down.
I'm just gonna give several. Don't sign with an indie publisher. That's one. Two, find a editor that you can actually work with. That's going to help elevate you as a writer. And make sure you know your budget. You know, find an artist that's not too slow. You know, and that won't buck you. I've been bucked. Don't be. That's one thing.
Did it get cloudy out here? I feel there's a lot of shade.
Yeah, they be bucking out here. I'm not gonna much lie about that. I'm not gonna expose nobody, but you know, have a strong plot and theme. You know, if your editor say your stuff is it don't make sense, listen to your editor, because they're going to guide you, and you're paying them for a reason. Because I didn't know editors supposed to look at artwork, so I just learned that today because I got cursed out by Greg again. But yeah, trust your editors.
Let's go to Tony.
For me, probably to learn how to maneuver in the game. For me, that was a big thing. I came in ignorant of a lot of things that go on behind the scenes of how the comic book industry works. And that was to my downfall, to my detriment, that I'm still paying a price for as of 13 years later. But it's a learning process. But try to learn as much as you can about the industry before you get in the industry to prevent you making the missteps and the pitfalls and having things go wrong, so that when you encounter those obstacles, you know how to react to them and maneuver around them. Like I said, I went in straight ahead, learning as I went along. So I wish older me would have gone back and told younger me, okay, walk before you run. So that, for me, that's the piece of advice I can offer.
Jiba?
I want Brian to go first.
All right, Brian.
ooh. I was wondering how this is gonna go up. No, so I'm gonna say a couple things, and these are, if you followed my career, in the few years I've been in here, you'll know that these things are true. I would say first, watch your partnerships. And this is not a dig on anybody that I've worked with, right? Because some of my partnerships haven't worked due to me. Some of my partnerships haven't worked due to them. Some of my partnerships haven't worked due to both of us, right? So that doesn't mean that just because you can't work with somebody, they're a horrible person and they're the most evil person in the world. That doesn't mean anything. It means that you two can't work together. And you need to be aware of that. And you need to be aware of the motivation in those partnerships, because that's very, very important. If my motivation is to make the best book possible, and your motivation is to get the shine for making the best book possible, that is ultimately not going to work, right? So you got to meter those things out. And again, that can be on both sides. People can say that about me, and I can say that about people. Whether or not it's true, that doesn't matter. It's the motivations that are behind it. That's the first thing. The second thing is research what you're doing. Please, 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 new creators, don't hit up me. Don't hit up Dorphise. Don't hit up Jiba. Don't hit up Tony. Don't hit up anybody with like, how do I do everything you do to be successful? If we don't know each other, right? The game is free, actually, and I'll tell you that the game really legitimately is free, but we have to have some kind of relationship. You can't just jump in somebody's inbox and be like, tell me how you make a successful comic book and you get a good following and you do with this and you do with that. Like, you're gonna get left on red, you're gonna get cussed out, or you know what I mean, or whatever. Because again, we had to study what we do. We had to learn what we do. If something is free on Google, look it up on Google. And if you don't know, that's when you pop in and say, hey man, I've been on Google and I'm looking for a certain such and such. Do you know the word or key phrase so I can learn it myself? Because there's a difference between learning what we do here and just wanting the knowledge. I call it the Jurassic Park theory. Like, people sometimes stand on the shoulders of giants and then like they're like, look, I'm a giant. No, bro, you're just on the shoulder of a giant. So be careful about that. Creators, be careful about what you talk about. I get it. I love my art too. I 100%, man. I got some. I said it a bunch of times. I think I have the best art team in indie comics right now. Obviously, there are going to be people that disagree with me. That doesn't matter. It's how I feel about it. I'm not releasing every picture because every picture doesn't go to a project that's fully ready to go. I'm not going to give you something that's a year and a half, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and I never get to it.
Yep.
Focus. Like, you've got to focus on what's there, focus on what you're doing, and get some of these projects finished. And the last thing I will say, and this is one that's really, really close to me, is don't let imposter syndrome stop you, right? And I know it's hard. I battle it myself. I'll be 100% honest. When Jiba was talking about, do they really like my stuff? Do they really like my stuff? I promise you all this. Before every Kickstarter, I have a 20-minute conversation with Brett about that. And I know Brett is annoyed with it because it's the same conversation every single time.
Same damn conversation.
Right? It's hard for me to get it out of my head sometimes. But do they really like Wingless Go? Don't let that stop you. Even if they don't, who cares? Right? Like, because again, the people who don't like it still are not going to like it. But the people who love it, you would be denying them a chance to show you that love. So don't let yourself stop you. Don't let your doubts. If you've done the best product you can, if you've gotten the best thing together you can, now don't go haphazard. Don't just put something out and be like, it's great and y'all should love it. Do the best you can, writing, visually, marketing, blah, 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 and then put it out. And don't let yourself be stopped if you've done the best you can with what you're given, because somebody will love it. And not just your mama, somebody, you know what I mean? Like, who's outside, who has no reason. The best love you can get is people who love you when they have no reason to love you, because it validates what you do. It validates, like Jiba said, that piece of your soul that you gave, it validates it. Your mama's gonna love it anyway. Like, my mom is one of my biggest fans, right? She got all books, shirts, statues. And I'm like, would you stop buying stuff? I'll just give it to you. No, but she wants to buy it every time. That's great. But that doesn't give me the same kind of validation as someone who's never known me, who's never believed in me. Like, my mom believes in me because she's believed in me my whole life. But somebody who's outside that says, no, this right here, this is what I want. Don't stop yourself from achieving that and from getting that self-assurance.
Yeah. I wanted to wrap it up for this because there are a couple things, right? So, and I'm going to talk about it from a couple of different angles. So from the creator angle, I would say, number one, get out of your ego. All right. You are not the best at anything right now. You know what I mean? Embrace that. Brian was absolutely 100% correct. Study the craft of comics. All right. Even if you're just a writer, even if you're just going to be an artist, even if you're just going to be a letterer, so on and so forth, understand the entire craft of comics before starting a comic. All right. There is a craft to it. There is a system to it. There is a methodology to it.
Yep.
I'm saying these things right now that a lot of hopefuls don't want to hear, because this is the real talk. This is me being a professor right now, right? Comics are an exercise in graphic design, which means that they are a synthesis of the image, the drawn image, the text that is written, the letter forms that you use for the lettering, all right, whether it be the dialogue or the special effects. Then you have to think about your style of coloring. You have to think about your trade dress. You have to think about the package. Remember, indie, mainstream, whatever, y'all are competing for the same space, and there is a standard.
Mm-hmm.
There is an artistic standard or a design standard or just a methodology standard of comics, and it doesn't matter if you like the art style or not. They all follow that methodology. So first, understand the craft of comics as a creator. Secondly, put that ego aside, right? I am an extremely rare cat in that I do it all myself, all right? And I do it well. I have finally, at the age that I'm at, finally got to the point where, in terms of like my art style, I feel like, okay, now I'm Jiba Anderson, if you will, because it was like that whole notion of talent, but also skills came together and converged, right? So you're always developing your skills. You're always getting better. So that's the creative aspect, right, that you need to learn. Business aspect, write a business plan. If you're serious about the game, you're serious about getting in this game, you're serious about starting a company, first of all, write that business plan. Write that business plan before you start or while you're developing your books. You know what I mean? So start that business plan, work that business plan. It's not set in stone, right? But it is your roadmap of how you want to navigate this game. Okay? Also, play the game fair. One of the best lessons I ever learned was from George Perez. Not only is he one of my great influences as an artist, but he is also one of my great influences as a creative and a businessman in this game. George Perez is one of the sweetest, most gregarious, kindest artists you will ever meet, right? He treats each fan like they're special because they are. He's a good dude, right? Because he's a good dude, being a good dude generates a lot of goodwill in this business, especially as an independent creator, right? That goodwill is going to get you through. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are a good person, you play the game fair, and your skills are on point, like, that is going to push you so much farther. That's the thing that's going to give you a career. Okay? So I think those are my biggest kind of like, knowledge drops for y'all.
Great advice. Great advice from all of you. Fantastic. I really hope there's people out there listening. Well, I know there's people out listening, but that they take you seriously, that each of you kind of said it in your own way about learning the craft and working with people who know the craft. That's amazing advice, and there's a lot of people out there who need to be listening to that. Guys, go around and tell everybody where they can find you, how they can follow you.
Well, you guys can follow me on Instagram, Spirits Destiny Universe, and also on Twitter, Spirits Destiny U. Do not follow me on Facebook because I don't want you guys to see what I be posting on Facebook.
Is it a shame I was going to say the same thing? Like,
Right.
nah, don't look for her for real.
Don't look for me on Facebook, please.
She's usually in Facebook jail anyway. So
Yeah, I'm
it
on
doesn't matter.
Facebook jail, so you might as well not even waste your time.
I can be found at Wingless Comics, Wingless_comics on Instagram, Wingless Comics on Facebook, Brian Lambert on Facebook, Wingless Entertainment on Twitter, and obviously our Kickstarter link is in the chat.
You can find me at Advent Comics on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at Advent Comics. As far as Facebook, you can find us at Advent Comics and my personal page, Tony Kittrell. The Kickstarter is doing well. We need some help. So if you incline, take a look at it. It's called Southside. It's a good project. Take a look at it. You might like what you see. I'll be hitting y'all up for some more interviews and such. Got a lot of things coming down the pike, especially with our Blaxis members. So we're gonna be pushing their stuff real hard. Brian and Jiba, we got you.
Word up.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Always.
Thank you. Well, you can definitely find me at various places on Facebook. You can find Griot Enterprises on Facebook. Indie Comics Dispatch has put up the current Kickstarter for the Horseman Manifest Destiny. On Instagram, you can find us under Jazz Intellect. That's the same thing as Twitter. Also on FB, you can find me on my personal page, Jiba Molei Anderson. If you do try to friend request me, write a note. You know what I mean? Let a brother know who you are before trying to become my friend. Because there are a lot of people in that waiting room that I'm just like debating right now. It's like, do I know you? Like, I look through your walls too. I do look through your walls to see if if you're somebody that I'm,
I do that too. I got a lot of cryptocurrency people trying to be my friend.
Man,
God,
them
yes.
be fools, man. But but other than that, yeah. Also the website griotenterprises.com. That's where you can find the books and stuff like that. I will say this right now, all of you guys. One of the things about the Blaxis, what we are doing is we are building a database for it, and what I'm going to do. Just to letting y'all know is on the Griot Enterprises website, the space that was graphic novels, I'm going to clear that and make that a Blaxis space where, I'll have an image, a little brief description of each company, and that's going to link to each one of you guys' websites. So, y'all get them websites together. You have them. So I can make these links happen. I mean, this is what the Blaxis is about. You know what I mean? Like this is part of what I'm about. Like when I was a kid coming up, little nerdy kid, I was like, you know what? I want to be part of an arts movement like the Harlem Renaissance. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've always had friends. I have a lot of artist friends and stuff like that. And I'm like, I got enough people for that. Black comics is that movement for me. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I'm part of this tradition and part of this movement. We all are, right? Talking about standing on the shoulders of giants, right? It's like, for instance, 4 pages, 16 bars is All Negro Comics Made Real, and got 7 volumes of that so far.
Yeah.
That's straight up. It's the longest running anthology featuring comics and creators of color, and that's facts. You know what I'm saying? But it's all a part of we're part of this community, right? And that's what the Blaxis is. At the end of the day, it's a community.
That's amazing. Very cool.
Can I say real quick that one, just so you guys know, I already got you guys all on my website the same way the Blaxis is run. So let's do this. 2, Jiba, I hate your title, Manifest Destiny, but I only hate it because I wanted to use it in something and you did it first. So I'm super mad about that. But it is what it is.
My bad. I'm not changing it though, but my bad.
Fair enough.
Everybody out there watching, the links are in the comment section. You can find all these people on the various social media outlets that they described. If you're not following them, follow them. If you're not pledging towards their projects, go pledge right now or follow the project for Wingless. It launches, Wingless and Constant Hustle Comics launches September 7th. And show support and continue to follow and support the Blaxis as it grows and broadens. Next week, he was mentioned here tonight, I have a one-on-one interview with John Jennings. So he's our guest next week on the show. And looking forward to that one. If you're just now realizing it, we're on Thursday nights now. Season 2 is on Thursday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, every Thursday or most Thursday nights. I'll take a break every now and then. Want to thank Brian for pitching in and guest co-hosting tonight, and all the Blaxis members here this evening for joining me on this second episode of our second season. Everybody,
thank you very much
so
for having
much.
us, bro.
We appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Yes, man. Really
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Everybody out there watching, we will see you guys next week.